What is up, guys? It's Ryan Adler. With the anniversary event starting in 3 weeks, I wanted to go over the best way to grind blood points as killer, in my opinion. And during anniversary, playing killer absolutely gives you more blood points than playing survivor, because almost everyone is going to be dropping cakes anyway, and you just naturally make more points playing killer if you do well. You also don't have to worry about getting your friends together, and you can't be sabotaged by a killer who's just very boring, just camping or whatever, playing in a way that you're not going to get any points. You're also going to make a lot more points against some killers than others, and you don't get to choose who you face as survivor. So my advice, if you're in it for blood points, definitely play a lot more killer during the event. So yeah, the biggest step is choosing the right killer, and I think there are actually a lot of considerations here. You are going to be playing this killer back to back to back to just grind up blood points. So in order to make that enjoyable, I think you need to pick a decently strong killer, one that you personally enjoy playing. There's no point in playing only S tier killers if you don't enjoy that. It can also be a good idea to pick multiple ones so you don't get bored and you can rotate. But I think that's probably best left for people who are already good at some of them. If you're just getting into this, I think you should probably stick with one and get good at them first. Another big thing is how suitable they are for blood points. For example, Michael Myers is really bad for blood points, because if you use any of his good add-ons, you're just you're not going to make any hooks, or even the insta down, you're only going to hit people once. So it's just one of those killers who just gets crazy low amounts of blood points. He's not suited to grind blood points with at all. Another big thing is the map dependence, because you're going to be dropping cakes, or at least I hope you're going to be dropping cakes. So if you're going to play killers like Dredge, who can be really oppressive on maps like Midwich, but he's just very mediocre on most other maps, he's not suited either. And then I guess, although this is not really in your control, but I guess you could also consider things like DC rate. Like if you're going to play Skull Merchant, you're not going to get that many points because most people just refuse to play against her. So this is stuff you should think about. I think, in general, the best killer to grind blood points with by far is Blight. And the reason for that is he is insanely strong. I mean, Nurse is stronger, but I think people give up or DC against her a lot more. And I also think just playing naturally, in my experience, you get more blood points with Blight. You constantly get deviousness points just by using his power, just for mobility. You don't even have to be all that good with it. He's also pretty much the killer who gets the fastest hooks. He's also super fun in my opinion, although this is very subjective. He is one of the least map-dependent killers, like big maps, small maps. Any map, it's just, he works on all of them. Even Larry's, you can make Blight work on Larry's easily. He has crazy good add-ons, even low rarity, which you should mostly be playing low rarity. If you can't, I think it's better not to use Eries every game because it's going to be harder to get them. You should also consider things like if you're on console or on controller, you want a killer who's very suited for controller. So if you're not great at controller blinks with Nurse, don't pick her, obviously. If that's something you struggle with, killers like Wraith might be a good choice for you. Another really good killer for beginners, I would say, is Demogorgon. He has very decent blood point rate. You can always spam his portals in the end to even get more points. If you somehow get them to close your portals a lot, you can keep putting them back up, and also traveling through them gets points. He's also just very fun in general and pretty beginner friendly. His skill gap is mostly in zoning. I guess hitting your shreds and having good macro play with his portals, which is something you should definitely, if you're not good at it yet, I think he's great to learn that, so I definitely recommend him. I love playing Artist. She's also very strong. She has a good blood point rate. But yeah, all in all, just Consider those factors that I gave you, and you should be able to find a killer that really suits you. So the next thing for you to think about is a right build. You could definitely argue with if you're going to play back-to-back. Info perks at first glance seem like a good idea because you are not going to waste any time looking around, not getting blood points. Especially on Blight, stuff like Lethal Pursuer and Barbecue is really going to speed up your grind. But then the problem is Distortion is crazy strong, and many people use it. And also, I think you're going to have a much better time if you don't only think about blood points. You're also just having fun and most importantly, trying to get better at the game. Which is why I recommend don't use any info perks. Ever since they butchered Ultimate Weapon, I have gotten a lot better at just general game awareness by never using any info perks. And I suggest you do the same. There are also some of the best slowdown perks like Corrupt Intervention or Grim Embrace. They have great effects and they still help you get a better idea of where people are because Corrupt drives them into you. And Grim Embrace, what it also does is it makes people unhook quicker because all the gens are blocked every time you hook someone the first time. So that means they're either twiddling their thumbs sitting next to a gen, waiting for it to unblock, and they only have a minute to unhook, and they can't wait too long because if they wait like 50 seconds, obviously you're going to go back to the hook and you have every right to. So good aware survivors, which are the ones you kind of have to worry about, are just going to unhook more quickly, which helps with the blood point grind. It helps you figuring out where they are quicker, all this stuff. You also want to go for as many hooks as possible, so slowdown helps with that. And I think right now, for most killers, the best combo just is Corrupt Intervention, Pain Res, Grim Embrace, and Dead Man's Switch. Although that kind of depends on what kind of killer you have. If they have the kind of oppression where they get people, force them off gens without being right next to them. Artist is probably the best at this, but you also have other, like Demogorgon, he's great at it too because every time you teleport, they have to worry about, because you're undetectable for a bit, you teleporting next to them, so they're more likely to let go of the gen. Other killers like Plague, they're good with this too because you're going to constantly keep everybody injured. So the chases are, they kind of like start at halftime. So a lot of people are going to be more safe and pre-run. But pre-running with DMS comes at the cost of, you can shoo them off and then just ignore them, go for someone else. So you have two people off gens. So yeah, with after you've picked the right killer and you have your build, now you have to, wonder what do you do. So I think it's good to just try to get better at killer. I've seen a lot of people who say stuff like, what I agree with is don't worry about winning too much. Like I think if you don't worry about winning too much, you're going to end up winning a lot more because you just take that pressure off. And also it doesn't really help you to hard tunnel or super camp every time, because while it might help get the results, it's not going to help you in the long run. But I've also heard people say stuff like don't use any perks so you stop caring about winning. I mean, let's be real here. In DBD, especially on the killer side, not winning is just a lot less fun than winning. I think that's completely true for almost everyone. People who say they don't care about winning usually aren't really being honest to themselves. So I think this is another reason to just run full slowdown, so your perks help you not having to worry so much, and then you can afford not caring a lot more than if you don't have any perks. So then let's talk about your game plan. I think of what I see a lot of people do, once they get their first down, their first hook, they always are really torn whether they should leave or not. This doesn't really make all that much sense unless, obviously there are exceptions. Like if you play Scratch Mirror Myers, you absolutely cannot afford to give away free unhooks. But most killers who are decent in chase, you want to go for somebody else right away. You need a hook on someone else. You're going to force someone else, a third person, to rotate and unhook the first guy. You can have someone else off gens in the meantime. You also don't have to worry about anti-tunnel perks because you can ping pong between 2 at least, maybe even 3. So yeah, my advice in almost all cases, once you have your first down, leave. Go for someone else right away. And then consider stuff like, it really helps if you can hook them in the same vicinity you hook the first person. Preferably in places where gens are, because you can achieve a lot of things at the same time. You can keep people on their toes. They can't do gens in peace. The resources in the area are going to be depleted. The pallets are going to be gone. So obviously your chases are going to be a lot quicker if there are not many pallets around. And just in general, I guess we could sum this up as you need to get good at picking good chases. Especially your first chase. Lethal Pursuer really helps with this, but like I said, this is countered by Distortion and a lot of people use it, so I think Corrupt is a better choice. But you want to be, mostly if they let you want to be chasing wherever you're going to get the quickest down, or where you can pressure gens the most. Like if you bring Corrupt, always try to chase within the non-corrupted gens area. And then my next point is you need to learn in most games you're going to get to a point where you've already won. So you have to figure out good ways to make sure you can farm points. So what you should always try to do is carry the survivor. If you have someone hooked and someone down, carry the down person very far from that hook, because it's going to make it a lot more probable that someone else will unhook, because if you don't, a lot of the time they'll just let each other die on hook, which is not in your best interest. And then last but not least are spammable abilities. Like with Artist, once the game's over, like now, keep shooting birds. Keep shooting 3 birds, because you get 75 blood points every time. Same with Demogorgon, spam his portals. With Plague, get all your fountains if there are any left, because you get 100 points for that each. And yeah, most importantly, enjoy the grind. If you have to force yourself to play, that won't help. Oh, and finally, don't waste any time in the endgame chat. Seriously, just turn it off completely. Nobody likes a sore winner. Don't gloat. They won't care. They'll just call you tunneler, even if you 12 hooked. So do yourself a favor, just turn it off. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, please. Ryan Adler out.